The guest room! I never thought I'd be house-sitting for my friend Claire under such bizarre conditions. You'll be fine, she had assured me. It's only for a weekend, and the house is pretty much self-sustaining. Her family's old home stood isolated at the end of a long, winding road in a town that barely existed on maps. Claire's great-grandmother had passed away recently, and I agreed to keep the place safe from weather damage until her family could return to clear it out. It was a quiet Friday evening when I pulled up to the house. Old-fashioned lamps cast a warm glow across the front porch, but as I stepped out of the car, a chill settled over me. The air smelled damp, like old wood and rain-soaked soil. A heavy silence clung to the house, broken only by the occasional wind that rattled the trees lining the yard. It felt as if the place was holding its breath, waiting. When I opened the front door, I was greeted by the creak of old wood and the faint scent of lavender, mingled with something mustier. The house felt untouched by time, like stepping into someone's memory. Photos of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, and every room was filled with furniture that looked older than I was. The house was clean, save for a thin layer of dust that seemed to settle over everything, as though the house itself was trying to fade into the past. After a quick tour, I settled my things in the living room, intending to sleep on the couch. Claire had told me to avoid the upstairs bedroom, particularly the guest room. "It's been locked up for years," she'd said, with an edge to her voice I couldn't quite place. "Just don't go in there." I brushed off her warning, figuring it was probably just out of respect for her family. But the mystery gnawed at me, and I found myself glancing up the dark staircase throughout the evening, wondering what secrets lay beyond that locked door. As night fell, the house grew colder. The air felt thick, almost damp, and a quiet dread seemed to seep from the walls. I wrapped myself in a blanket, scrolling through my phone to distract myself, but there was no signal. A soft hum broke the silence, barely audible at first, then louder, a rhythmic tapping sound from above. "Probably just the pipes," I whispered to myself, though the thought did little to calm my nerves. The tapping grew louder, echoing through the empty halls. I tried to ignore it, but each tap felt deliberate, as though someone was moving through the upstairs rooms. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. I climbed the stairs, my footsteps muffled by the worn carpet. I stopped outside the guest room door. It looked like any other door, but something about it felt wrong, as if it didn't belong in the house. The air grew colder the closer I got, a chill that sank deep into my bones. Just a peek, I told myself, though my heart pounded louder with each passing second. I reached for the handle, hesitating as the tapping stopped, leaving a silence so complete that I could hear my own heartbeat. The door opened with a low creak, and I stepped inside. A wave of cold air washed over me, and I shivered. The room was pristine, frozen in time, with delicate lace curtains and a canopy bed covered in dust. It felt like a forgotten shrine, untouched by anyone but the house itself. A faint smell of lavender lingered in the air, mixed with something sour and rotting, like a flower left too long in water. I was about to leave when I noticed a small music box on the dresser. Its lid was slightly ajar, revealing a delicate ballerina poised in mid-dance. I reached out, running my finger over the cold, smooth surface, and a chill ran through me as if someone were watching me. I closed the lid, hoping to lock away whatever strange energy clung to it. As I turned to leave, the door swung shut with a loud, echoing bang. Panic surged through me, and I rushed to the door, my fingers fumbling for the handle. It wouldn't budge. I twisted and pulled, but the door held fast, trapping me in the frigid, musty room. The tapping began again, louder now, like footsteps crossing the floor just outside. My pulse quickened, and I backed away from the door, eyes fixed on the shadows stretching across the walls. A dark shape flickered in the corner of my eye, and I turned, only to find the room empty. The temperature dropped even further, and I could see my breath misting in the air. Shadows seemed to twist and writhe around the edges of the room, and I had the terrible feeling that something was watching me, just out of sight. My mind raced, searching for an explanation, but there was nothing rational left to cling to. Suddenly, the music box began to play, a soft, haunting melody that seemed to seep into my bones. The ballerina inside spun slowly, her painted face frozen in a sad, distant expression. I backed away, my heart racing, but the melody grew louder, filling the room with an oppressive, suffocating dread. The shadows shifted, and I saw her, a figure faint and barely there, standing by the window. Her dress was tattered, her hair hanging limp around her face, and her eyes locked onto mine, filled with an ancient sorrow, a loneliness that went beyond words. I stumbled backward, the weight of her gaze pressing down on me. My mind screamed to run, but my legs felt like lead. She raised a hand, her fingers outstretched, beckoning me closer, and I felt a cold, unnatural pull drawing me toward her. With one final burst of panic, I turned and threw myself against the door, and it flew open. I staggered out into the hallway, slamming the door behind me. The music box stopped, and the silence returned, heavier than before. I didn't look back as I ran down the stairs, grabbing my things and bolting out of the house. The air outside was sharp and cold, but it felt clean, free from the suffocating presence inside. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, and even then I could still feel her gaze on me, lingering in the back of my mind. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see her standing in the road. The house faded into the distance, but her image remained, etched into my memory. A ghostly reminder that some doors are better left closed,